guys, it's Joshua Reviews. And oh man. I wasn't even sure if I should talk about this movie, but I was like, you know what? The 4-year anniversary of this movie's coming up. It's kind of crazy to think that I saw this in theaters. I'm, of course, talking about Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City. Now, if you can't tell by the shirt, and in fact, I'm talking about this movie, I'm a real big Resident Evil fan. I haven't played all of the games, so I'm not what you would call a diehard fan, but my friend got me introduced to Resident Evil quite some time ago, and I had never actually played the games until this movie was coming out, and that got me super excited. So I went ahead and I played the first and second game like back to back when this movie was coming out, and my excitement for it was like through the roof. And man, I have some things to say about this movie, because this movie has kind of made a name for itself. Yeah. So, little brief history. Resident Evil is a video game series where you play as a bunch of characters, these two, and specifically for the first game, and you play as Chris and Jill Valentine, and in Resident Evil 2 you play as Leon and Claire, and it's a zombie horror game. Basically, you're exploring this mansion with these experimental researchers, these experimental, bioweapons that are like infected with the T virus and G virus, and there's zombies and there's creatures, mutations. It's a fun franchise. I haven't played all of the games, but I am working on it. I just beaten Resident Evil 4 and I loved it. Can't wait to see where they go from there. But here we are talking about the movie. Now, this isn't the first adaptation of this game series. There have been quite a few, actually. There were 6 in the Paul W.S. I don't remember the name of the character. It's either Alice or Allie or something. I don't know. I've only seen the first one and I've seen 2. I've seen Resident Evil 1 and Apocalypse, and they were decent. I like them. I haven't seen the other Paul W.S. Anderson films, but there's 6. And there's, I think, 4 or 5 anime films that are connected to the game series, so there's a lot. And we currently have another adaptation being made by Sony by Zach Kreger himself. More on that a little bit later, but I digress. Sorry, I know I said it was going to be brief, but actually, I don't know. Anyways, Welcome to Raccoon City. So this came out in 2021 to mostly mixed reviews, but I would go as far as to say it got pretty negative reviews. It didn't do well at the box office. It cost about, I think, $40 million to make, and it was like a $35 million, $40 million budget, and it only made $45 million back at the box office. And that was worldwide. Domestically, it only made like $12 million or something like that. So yeah, no, it didn't. It fucking tanked. And this was also when COVID was still kind of a thing, and that was when streaming was like, I mean, people still love streaming, but this was kind of like when people were just like, hey, I don't want to go see that. It looks shit. I'm going to just stream it, right? Or bootleg it. People do that nowadays. But anyways, I saw this in theaters with my friend who introduced me to Resident Evil. And sorry that I haven't talked about the movie. This is going to be a long review because I have been wanting to talk about this movie for quite some time. As you couldn't already tell, I love this franchise. It's a lot of fun, and I have some things to say. So let's talk about it. So yeah, this movie adapts the first 2 games, and that's a choice, but we'll get into that later. And it follows our main protagonist, Claire Redfield, as she's returning home to Raccoon City to warn her brother, Chris Redfield, about the G virus and T virus getting loose from the Umbrella Corporation. Now, if you don't know, in the games, the Umbrella Corporation is the big, bad, evil corporation that work on the virus, and it gets loose, and it spreads all around the town, and, zombies are coming out. And so she warns her brother. Meanwhile, Chris goes to the police station where he's told to go to the Spencer Mansion, which is the location from the first game. And we kind of follow these 2 stories, these 2 side stories. We follow Chris, and I'm trying to do a review here, Bella. Come on, it's my dog. We follow Chris and Jill Valentine at the Spencer Mansion, as well as Wesker, and who's the main antagonist in the video game series. And we also follow Leon S. Kennedy and Claire in the Raccoon City Police Department. So we follow these two side stories as Raccoon City is basically being infested with zombies, and they gotta find a way to escape before 6 a.m. because that's when Umbrella plans to nuke the entire city. And okay, let's get into it. Let's just jump straight into it. So, okay, first off, this is just my opinion. You can agree or disagree. Most people I know hate this movie. They absolutely hate it. I'll get into that in a little bit. I'll get into that a little bit later. But let's get into the things that I think really worked about this film. Let's talk about the positives and the negatives. So, first off, I think that trying to adapt both games is both a positive and a negative. But let's talk about the positives first. First off, I think that this film, for what it is, does a good job tackling both games together. I think that for what it is, for what it's trying to do, it works. I thought that the story was easy to follow, it was easy to get into, and everything made sense. It was cohesive, it wasn't all over the place, in my opinion. I know most people would disagree with that, but I thought that for the most part, it worked for me, at least. There were elements that I was like, okay, you know what? I'm surprised that worked out. I was surprised that they managed to squeeze that into an hour and 47-minute movie, which is a crazy runtime for a movie like this adapting 2 video games. But again, we'll get into that in the negatives when I talk about those. But the other thing that I thought really worked with this movie is the actors playing Claire and Chris. They did a really good job with the casting there, and I was surprised that they really worked. I mean, the actor who plays Chris Redfield, he looks like his game counterpart. I mean, he looks like Chris. It's kind of uncanny. They couldn't have picked a better actor, and it's kind of a shame that he's not going to play this role again in a future sequel because they're rebooting it again. But you know what? I'm fine with that. And I thought that, while, yeah, it would have been nice if they gave Claire the ponytail. It's whatever. They gave her the leather jacket, and I like that. Which is something I want to talk an extensive amount about. I love the attention to detail in this movie. How they are adapting 2 video games, which is crazy to think about, but what they get right. Like, even to the smallest details. There are so many references in this movie. I don't think I've seen a video game adaptation with these many references. Director Johannes Roberts understood the assignment when it came to adapting a video game for the live action treatment. And I think that he succeeded in telling a accurate Resident Evil movie. Say what you will about the direction in this movie, there's no denying that this man was able to get so many little details accurate as possible. I mean, there was Easter eggs galore. I mean, there's a scene where you can see a typewriter in the back, where you can see the herbal plant, which is a mechanic you use in the game to heal yourself if you get bit or attacked by one of the zombies. And to the references to the Jill sandwich, which if you played the first game, you know that infamous line. There's a scene where Jill references, would you rather be eaten by a shark, or it's either a giant shark, a snake, or a spider. But she references that, and those are 2 of the enemies that you face off in the game. To the little details of how the mansion looks, to the Raccoon City Police Department, to the truck driver eating the burger, to the costume design. I really like the costume design in this movie. There's an Easter egg with the zombie, the first zombie you encounter in the first game. He looks really identical, and I love that detail. There's a lot of stuff that I really like. And the Ashford twins, there's a reference to that, which I didn't expect to see a Code Veronica reference. That's awesome. I love that. I love seeing the Ashford twins. That's cool. And honestly, there's a lot of Easter eggs that really just put a smile on my face. There were individual moments that I love. There was one moment in particular that made me feel like I was playing a section from the game, where Chris has to use his gun to illuminate light in this dark room that he's in. And there's these different zombies coming at him full force, and and it is pitch black. He has to shoot the zombies, but he can only see them when he shoots the gun. And I missed it the first time, but on rewatch, I noticed that he uses his AR or whatever the gun he's using. And when that runs out of ammo, he switches to his pistol. And once he runs out of that, he uses his dagger or his knife or whatever. And then he uses his iconic lighter to light. And there's an awesome scene where a zombie is like coming at him. And every time it goes out, he has to flicker it and it gets closer and closer until eventually it disappears. I'm like, that is Resident Evil. I love that. This is something that, from what I remember in the first two Paul W.S. Anderson films, they missed. There wasn't that feeling of Resident Evil. Sure, there's references here and there, but it kind of felt like its own thing, which worked because I did find those films enjoyable. But I know later on, I haven't seen them, but I know later on they go more down the action route, which, if I'm being honest, I don't like. I like it when Resident Evil is mainly horror. I'm okay with action being implemented because it is kind of a wacky franchise. I mean, we're how many sequels in? 9? Even though there's like many different spin-offs. But I love when Resident Evil is just strict horror. And there were moments where I felt claustrophobic. One of the things I absolutely love in this film is how much detail they put into the city of Raccoon City. How there was little, there's such minute details. But they go a long way driving home the point that this city feels lived in. To the diner, and there's a scene where they're in the diner when we first get introduced to Jill, Wesker, and Leon. And one of the officers says how much I hate Raccoon City, and the waitress says, "Hey, this is my hometown." He's like, "Hey, you're more than welcome to living here in this shithole." Little interactions like that feel believable, that make this feel like a city that people live in, and I love how far they go to emulate that in a film like this, especially with a tight string budget. Like, I was surprised with what they were able to accomplish. Now, again, I'll get into that a little bit later with some of the negatives because some elements don't work, but again, I'll get into that. And I think that while there are mostly just zombies in this film, I think that the zombies are phenomenal. I mean, I know some people have criticized the way the zombies look, but I personally dug it. This film actually made zombies pretty creepy. Now, there are other zombie movies that have creepy zombies, but in this one, it's like they take the time to show you that this is a horrible transformation. There's a little bit where the waitress has blood dripping out of her eye, and she's like, whatever, and I feel like most people would look at it like, you're not going to get that looked at, but I feel like that's kind of a real, I don't know, the way the actress delivered the line is like, it's been like that for a few weeks. Probably nothing. I don't know. There's just something realistic about that. The way she says it and the way she delivers that line. It's like, yeah, okay. And then later you see her transform into this zombie and it's hideous. It's hideous. And you feel like, and you see the pain that is emulated on her face. It's pretty disturbing. And I loved it. This city that they're in feels very tight, very narrow. And I love that. I would have liked to have seen more because once they leave the police station and they're kind of making their way to the orphanage, which is also from the second game, I would have liked to have seen them kind of going through Raccoon City, but that's a nitpick more than anything because I know they had other things to get to. Also, kind of want to talk about, actually, something I feel like I should talk about. I love the fact that they implemented the dogs, freaking William Birkins, and how he looks. I love how they replicated the freaking liquor. He looks awesome. Lisa Trevor is great in the film. I love the fight that she has between the liquor. That is one of my favorite moments in the film. I love that. I never thought I wanted to see that, but here I am talking about it, and it was fucking gnarly. And the moment where Lisa Trevor tries to warn Leon about the liquor up above, like, shh, and it's like, oh yeah, I feel that. I felt that from the game, so I love that. And perfect casting with Chief Irons. Perfect casting. Perfect casting for Ada Wong. She makes a little brief appearance in the end, post-credit scene, which is not going to go anywhere. But okay, let's talk about a little bit on the casting, okay? Which will kind of be my awkward segue into the dislikes. So, because this is adapting 2 games in 1, I like the casting for Chris. I like the casting for Claire. The casting for Leon is the most questionable casting of this movie. When I found out that this guy was being cast as Leon, because I knew him from Victorious, if you guys watch that show from Nickelodeon, it's kind of interesting rewatch experience when you know what Dan Schneider did. But anyways, I think his name is, oh my god, what is his name? I'm bad at names, but he plays Leon. Now, Leon from the original game, like the original Resident Evil 2, not the remake. I played the original. I played the remake. I didn't play the original. I'm going to get to the original game at some point. I got to get through tank controls. But okay, I want to talk about this, and I might get some flack for it, depending how many people watch this review. But I want to talk about it because I have a lot to say. So the most common criticism that you will hear from this movie is the casting for Leon. Now, I do not care that the fact that he doesn't have the blonde hair. Yes, it's kind of a hard pill to swallow at first, but it's like The Last of Us the first season of Last of Us proved to us you don't need to look exactly like the character to replicate the character from the game. I think that, yes, it's great when they nail the accuracy in terms of like how the characters look. Like, for a good example, the Legend of Zelda casting just got revealed. They look exactly like Link and Zelda. Love that. Does this guy look like Leon? Absolutely not. Does the costume look great? Absolutely. There's a little detail that I like in the movie when he's carrying the gun like this and he's walking around. That's exactly how Leon does that. I love that. Or maybe that's just regular police training. That's what they replicate, but I don't know. And to the actor's credit, to the filmmaker's credit, there are moments where he replicates the character really well. You might be like, what? That's fucking blasphemy, but hear me out. Leon in the character is a rookie who just gets thrown into this situation that's just fucking nightmarish. But somehow, some way, he still manages to be optimistic. And he has one-liners. He cracks jokes. I can't remember any off the top of my head, but there are moments in the film where there's two moments that I can think of. Towards the end, where he uses a rocket launcher, which is also a nod to, any final boss in Resident Evil where you're using a rocket launcher, just happens to be there. And I even love it's like, a rocket launcher, and he says, not in first class. That's such a Leon thing to say. I love that. Then when he's reloading his gun and he's just like, I really just want to get out of this town. And there's another moment where he looks to Claire and he says, you got a lot of weird friends. And I don't know, there's just something about the way he delivers it. I was like, that feels like Leon to me. I know it's not like one-liner quips, but just the way he delivered it, I was like, that's such a Leon thing to say. I don't know, am I crazy for saying that? Maybe, I was crazy once. But yes, let's talk about it. He looks nothing like Leon, and what they do to his character in the film is kind of baffling. Leon gets shit on a lot in this movie. And I understand that Joannis Roberts wanted to kind of replicate the nerdiness from the original Resident Evil 2. I've never played it, so I can't compare the two. I can only compare from the remake, which I know a lot more modern day players have played. Because nowadays it's like, oh, look at the new HD game. It's like, fuck the tank controls. It's like, I gotta get past that because I played Dino Crisis for the first time, and I was able to get through the tank controls pretty easy, and I enjoyed the shit out of the game. So I need to play Resident Evil 2, the original one. But yeah, I can't compare the two because I've never played the original Resident Evil 2. Maybe he's more nerdy in that one, but in the second one, or in the second game remake, yeah, he's nerdy, but he's not like a dork. This guy is literally a hippie. This is not the Leon from the games. I'm sorry. I don't... And you could call that miscasting. I mean, yeah. But truth be told, it's like, that doesn't really matter. My main issue is like, why couldn't they just like cut his hair a little bit and throw on a wig? Like that's so easy to do, but they didn't do that. It's kind of weird. And yeah, he gets shit on a lot in this movie. I mean, a lot. This is like, whoa. Like there's a part where Leon enters the briefing room to hear what Chief Irons is talking about, and Chief Irons literally gives him shit for entering the room, like, what the fuck are you doing in here, Leon? And he's like, you sent everyone into the briefing room. He's like, I didn't mean you moron. And there's moments where it's like, how did you join the police force? He's like, I'm still wondering that. And then there's moments where he literally walks up to a jail cell and the guy just takes his gun and he's like, don't shoot me. And it's also explained that he shot his partner in the ass. So yeah, not the character from the games, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't like this take on Leon. I get, trust me, I want an accurate depiction of the character from the game. I want that, trust me, believe me. When I saw this film for the first time, I was like, that's not Leon. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't warm up to it. I kind of like how nerdy and dorky he is. Plus, there's a little added detail that I like that apparently in some, I guess, files or some pages you can read in the original game, Leon supposedly wakes up in a motel when he first goes into his shift in the beginning of the events for the second game. In this movie, his character is introduced by waking up in a motel drunk. I like that little detail. That's cool. That shows that they went a long way to kind of throw in that little extra detail. I don't think this was like a thing as like, oh, we want to shit on this character or anything. I just feel like it was a little misguided because I think most modern day players are going to connect with the modern day Leon, not the original. And because I can't compare the two, I don't know if it is an accurate depiction of the original Leon. Probably not, but I don't mind it because it doesn't feel like they're shitting on the character, in my opinion. It just kind of feels like they're kind of building this nerdy hippie guy to be the Leon we all know, because as the film progresses, he does start to become the Leon we know from the games. And I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't kind of interested to see where they would take the character, because that's something I really do like about this film. Even if they get some of the character traits wrong with the characters, they are likable. Like, you like every character in this film. I like Claire and Chris's relationship. It feels believable and natural. The dialogue felt really natural, but besides a few things, I'll get into that in just a minute. I like Jill. I like the kind of awkward relationship she has with Chris. Chief Irons was a likable douchebag character. And I like how badass Chris was. Jill's also kind of this, tomboy, kind of badass, and I loved it. Mommy Jill up in here. I don't know. It's just, yeah, they get quite a few things wrong. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't kind of enjoy it. And it's okay. One last thing I'll talk about before I get into the negatives. I know it seems like I'm talking about negatives, but I have some negatives to say. This is more just so kind of like why anyways. Wesker. This is not, again, just like Leon, this is not Wesker from the games. But unlike Leon, I feel like this was an interesting idea. Rewatching it again, I feel like it really worked for me better because take Wesker from the games. He is kind of this evil character, right? He's kind of laughably evil, like in how he kind of talks like this. He's got the shades. I mean, he literally looks like the Terminator. And he's just such an over-the-top villain that it'd be kind of hard not to laugh at. In the first game, something's off. But in this movie, they actually try to give him some depth that, he's being bribed by some secret organization, Ada, spoiler. And because of that, it sends him on this downward spiral to becoming evil. And it worked for me. It felt natural. And yeah, he doesn't look like Wesker, and them giving him the shades in the post-credit scene is fucking stupid. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't up for this interpretation because it is an adaptation. It'd be weird if they didn't change some things to better fit the narrative, because that's just how it works in filmmaking. It's like when you're adapting any source material, you have to change some things from the source material, because if you don't, then you're just replicating the entire thing, which is not a bad thing when you say that, but when you think about it, there are just some things that don't translate well to an adaptation. It'd be like if they, for example, Lord of the Rings, right? In the books, there's so much walking. There's a lot of walking, and they walk a lot in the movie too, but in the books, they talk about how they walk and why they walk this certain way. You can't translate that in a movie. So there are some things that they translate differently in adaptations, which I'm okay with. I think the best example is Last of Us Season 1, and the Sonic movies. I think what they did with those two game adaptations were fucking great. I love that. Another example could be the Silent Hill movie, but that's a separate review for another time. Okay, so I talked about why I don't mind Wesker and Leon's, character change, even though I have issues with it. But I'm open to a new interpretation because this is an adaptation. We're gonna get more adaptations, so it's like I don't know. People were so angry about this, but to me, it's just like, okay, it's a different take on the character. I don't feel offended in any way. I'm not like butthurt. It's like, okay. I doesn't feel like a sense that the filmmakers didn't understand the characters. It was them trying to add something new that hasn't been done before because this is a film adaptation. And I like that. I like that approach. Did they always succeed? No. And I'll get into that in my negatives right now. So yeah, this movie adapts the first 2 games. I don't like that. I don't mind it for the movie. I think the movie is fun. And I like the fact that we see these 2 POVs with the characters, but because this is a 1 hour and 47-minute movie, and because this is adapting 2 games, and you don't have a lot of time to, I think for what they do, they flesh out the characters well enough, and they flesh out the ideas that the film presents well enough. But I'd be lying if I said that I'm bummed that we didn't get to see some things. Because, for example, because this is adapting 1 and 2, we don't get a lot of time to see some of the stuff from the games that you'd expect to see. For example, Mr. X is not in this movie. The freaking Tyrant from the first game is not in this movie. Lisa Trevor's in it, but she's only in it for a bit, and while she's cool and I like what they did with her character, she's only in it for like maybe 5 minutes. And while I like what they did with her character, it's not the same character from the game, and there's not a lot of time to have it fully developed. It's just kind of, oh, here's this character. Cool. You don't get the spiders. You don't get the shark. You don't get those weird mutated frog things. I don't know what they're called. I'm bad with names. And you also, you don't get, there's another thing that they don't do from the game. You don't get Rebecca from Resident Evil 1, and you don't get my favorite character in Resident Evil 1, Barry. Barry's not in this movie. Fucking shameful. And you don't get Nemesis. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, wait, why are we bringing up Nemesis? Because Nemesis is in the 3rd game. The 3rd game takes place right next to the events of Resident Evil 2. Because the city gets blown up, there's no fucking way they're going to be able to do Nemesis if they made a sequel to this. So, yeah. And there are moments where characters will give exposition dump because they need to, because they're so cram-fisted in this 1 hour, 47-minute movie. There's not a lot of time to get to do with that. And like I said, Leon's not the character from the game. Wesker's not the character from the game. Jill, I like her character in the movie. I like all the characters in this movie, but they don't really do that. They don't really do that much with her character in this movie. I'm gonna be totally honest. Plus, there's a moment where Wesker plays Moonlight Sonata. Is it Moonlight Sonata? He plays the Moonlight piano thing to open the secret door, which I loved. But why couldn't you have Jill do that? Maybe like he tries to do it and he's like, shit, and she's like, here, move out of the way, let me do it. And then a door, like, that would have been so cool. But Wesker does it. Okay. Sherry doesn't really do that much in this movie. Yeah, she's in this movie. And probably another thing that people shit on this movie for is the CGI. Yeah, the CGI is, I don't want to say it's the worst CGI I've ever seen, but it's, it's whatever. You can tell they were limited, and say I'm forgiving, but I didn't mind it so much as everyone else did. Everyone fucking shat on it. I'm just like, guys, I'm used to shitty CGI, especially from all the shark movies I've reviewed. It's like, I'm used to it, so I mean, I'm still acknowledging it. That's why it's here in my dislikes, but it's like, whatever. I can get past that. And I think that the film does kind of just end abruptly. It's like, hey, our characters, we did it. That's it. Okay, movie's over. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for what I have in terms of dislikes, because I think beyond those dislikes, like the main criticism I do have with this movie is that it's adapting 2 games into 1. And because of that, you don't get a lot of time to flesh out the ideas from the games into this movie. It would have worked better if they adapted the first game, then the second game, and then the third game, and just went on from there. It would have worked so much better, but knowing Hollywood, the studio was probably like, we gotta adapt 2 games because we're done with the fucking Paul W.S. Anderson film, so let's fucking shit out these 2 movies. But, you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I don't really mind because for all the issues I did present and the issues that are apparent in this movie has issues. I'm not going to deny that. Another issue I have is that every character in this movie says fuck repeatedly. And I think the total count is like 60 F words in this movie. I don't know if that's correct. I'd have to check that. But every character says fuck at least once, maybe more. So it's kind of wild. And I think that kind of shows you that Johannes Roberts is a good director, but maybe not the strongest writer. But all that being said, as a as a Resident Evil fan, I want to say diehard, but I haven't played all the games yet, so gotta limit myself. As a fan of the games, all that being said, I enjoyed this movie. Is it flawed? Absolutely. But there's something about it. Every time I've watched this film, what I noticed from the games put a smile on my face. Even though some of the characters aren't like the characters from the games, I still had fun with the characters. The acting is solid. The directing is solid. I think that there are moments of tension. The moment where Chris is in the dark and has to use this gun flash to illuminate the brightness, or, you know, to illuminate the room with the zombies coming at him. Moments like that make me really fucking love this movie. Yeah, it's flawed, but come on, let's be honest, guys. Some of your favorite films are probably some of the worst movies ever made. Let's be honest. We're all gonna have that one film that isn't necessarily good, but you just can't put your finger on it and that you like it for some reason. Yes, there are things they get wrong in this movie, but there's so much they do get right that I absolutely love. And I love Zach Cregger as a director. I love Barbarian. I loved Weapons. But he's telling his own story with the Resident Evil IP. And I'm going to be honest, that kind of lowered my expectations for the movie a little bit. I have no doubt that Zach Cregger will nail the tone for Resident Evil. But he said in an interview, he doesn't want to strictly adapt the game's story or the characters because we already have that. We already have the games. And it's like, but that's part of the reason we like the games, because we not only like the story and the character, but we also like the characters from the games. We want to see Jill, Chris, Leon, Claire. We want to see these characters in it. And we still haven't gotten Barry in a fucking live action movie. Well, I mean, I think he's in the Paul W. I haven't seen it, anyways. But it's like, I want to see Barry. I want to see Rebecca. I want to see an accurate Wesker. Yes, this movie gets those things wrong, but it's not in a way that I think shits on the characters from the games. I think it's just a different approach, and I don't mind that because we're probably going to get another adaptation in the future where they're done right. Unless it's the Netflix shit show where Wesker is fucking Blade for some reason, and he has like multiple clones. It's weird. But I'm excited for Zach Cregger's movie, but I'm gonna be honest, if it's not adapting the games, I can't help but compare it to this movie because I feel like this movie, while it got things wrong, it got a lot right. And listen, you guys can shit on me for liking this movie. I mean, this is my longest review I've done. But what they get right, I absolutely love the shit out of. And as someone who was just coming into the Resident Evil franchise when this movie got made, this feels like the type of film that, you grew up with. For people who grew up with the Friday the 13th franchise, everyone has that one Friday film that they grew up with. Like, oh, I saw, part 6 in theaters. I saw part 10 in theaters. People have the Paul W.S. Anderson films that they saw growing up, getting into the franchise. This was mine. And I think that, there's some issues with it. I still enjoy it. I'm not going to deny it. It's okay. Overall, in my opinion, it is a fun, turn your brain off zombie movie. And I know it's like, well, should that be an excuse to, just make shit? It's like, yes, we should focus on making good media, good art. But I mean, this is an adaptation of let's be honest, guys. The first Resident Evil game is pretty cheesy. I'm talking the original, not the remake. The first original game is pretty cheesy. And so is the original. The original second game, I know for a fact, even though I've never played it, is considered by many to be one of the best horror games ever made. But I think we forget that Resident Evil is a little cheesy. I mean, come on. As a fan of the franchise, I can own up to that. And I think that while there's some cheesiness in this movie and some things they get wrong, it feels like Resident Evil. Like, this feels like a Resident Evil adaptation. This doesn't feel like, fucking, you know, whatever the Max Payne movie was, where it's like they didn't even know what they were adapting. And overall, it's not boring. This movie's never boring. It surprisingly doesn't have a pacing issue, which you'd think it would because so much is in the film, but it all strangely works. This is a strange, cohesive movie that I just can't help but love. It reminds me a lot of those zombie films you'd see from the 80s and 90s. And if I had to compare it, I'd probably compare it to Night of the Creeps or the remake of Night of the Living Dead. And reasons like that make me love this movie even more. If this came out in the 80s or 90s, I feel like people would be a lot more forgiving on this movie. I think as time passes, people will kind of look at this and be like, yeah, it actually wasn't that bad. Is it great? No. But do I love it? Is it fun? Hell yeah. So I'm going to give it an A-. I should probably go before I get burned at the stake. Yeah, so anyways, guys, this is my longest review yet. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you watched all of it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and hopefully you guys don't roast me alive for liking this movie, but you know what? Suck it.